Okay, so let's talk about AI in the classroom. We've all heard the promise of these super smart AI tutors, right? And we all kind of have this built-in assumption, if a student is happy and feels good about their learning, the grades are going to go up. It just makes sense. But what if that's not true? What if the data shows something way, way weirder? That's exactly what we're going to unpack today. So here's the big question at the heart of all this. Can an AI really get how a student is feeling? And more importantly, what happens if the AI nails it? It totally understands the student's emotions, but their grades don't budge. Or even crazier, what if they get worse? That's the puzzle a really fascinating study stumbled upon. And honestly, the results are going to make you rethink everything you thought you knew about learning. All right, so to get to the bottom of this, we're heading to Peru, specifically to the National University of Central Peru. Their engineering department there was dealing with a pretty common headache. Their tutoring program just wasn't working. And you probably know the drill with these kinds of problems. Students just weren't into it. The feedback they got was pretty generic, nothing interactive. It all felt really impersonal, and it definitely wasn't giving them the kind of deep, long-term support, both for their grades and their stress levels, that actually helps someone succeed. So what you end up with is this huge gap, right? On one side, you have what the university wants for its students, and on the other, you have what the students are actually experiencing. And they were miles apart. It was clear they needed to try something totally different to close that gap. And that something different was, you guessed it, AI. The researchers decided, okay, let's build our own AI-powered tutor from the ground up. They wanted to create what's known as an intelligent tutoring system. Now, if you're not familiar with the term, an intelligent tutoring system, or ITS for short, is basically software that's trying to be the perfect personal tutor. It's not just a quiz app. It's supposed to adapt on the fly, changing how it teaches based on how you are doing moment to moment. And they didn't just slap this thing together. It was a really thoughtful process. First, they had to get all their data in order, cleaning up old academic records and tutoring notes. Then they actually built the thing using a framework called Flutter. Crucially, they checked their work by getting real feedback from people. And finally, they measured its success by looking at stuff like, are students happier? Are they more engaged? And this right here is the absolute key to the whole story. Their goal wasn't just to build an algorithm that could guess your final grade. No way. They were aiming for something much bigger, a system that could tune into a student's emotional state in real time. It wasn't just about what you know, but about how you feel while you're learning. Okay, so the emotionally smart AI tutor is built. It exists. Now for the million-dollar question. Did it work? Did it actually make a difference? It's time to look at the numbers and see what really happened. But before we get to the juicy results, there's a quick but super important nerdy step. The researchers had to make sure their measuring stick was accurate. They used a heavy-duty statistical method, don't worry about the name, PLSEM, to basically double-check that the data they were gathering was reliable and not just random noise. So, how good was their measuring stick? Turns out it was incredibly good. You see these scores here, Chromebox Alpha, AVE. All you need to know is that they blew past the standard benchmarks for good science. This means when they were trying to measure fuzzy things like student emotion or satisfaction, their tools were actually working. They were legit. Long story short, the data was solid. The foundation was rock solid. The researchers could trust what the numbers were about to tell them, which is important. Because what they found was, well, pretty shocking. All right, this is it. This is where things get weird. Because when they finally crunched all that high-quality data, the results just didn't add up. They found a paradox that basically turned everything on its head. Just look at this chart. The number here, R square, basically tells you how much of something the model can explain. And look at student emotion, a whopping 0.746. That's huge. But then look at academic performance, a tiny, tiny 0.057. The difference is just staggering. Let me put that another way, because this is wild. The AI system could account for almost 75% of why a student's feelings changed. It was brilliant at the emotional side of things. But when it came to their grades, it could only explain less than 6%. It was practically blind. And that is the central mystery we need to solve. Okay, let's dig a little deeper. The first piece of the puzzle actually makes total sense. They found a positive connection between how a student felt and how satisfied they were. This number, plus 0.384, just means that as students' emotional state improved, their satisfaction with the tutor went up. Checks out, right? Totally logical. And then this. The bombshell. Look at this number. When they looked at the link between that learning satisfaction and actual grades, the number wasn't just small, it was a massive negative 1.172. Let me be clear. This suggests that the more satisfied students were, the worse their grades were. It's the complete opposite of what anyone would ever expect. This was so bizarre that the researchers themselves, in their own paper, called it atypical. That's science speak for, whoa, what is going on here? They knew something else had to be at play, some other hidden variable, because this just flew in the face of all logic. Happier students are supposed to get better grades, not worse. So, what in the world do we make of this? What does this completely backward result tell us about how we learn, how we feel, and how AI should fit into all of it? You know, it really forces us to confront our basic assumptions. We all walk around thinking, happy student equals good grades. It's simple, it's clean, but this study just throws a wrench in that whole idea. It shows that the real world is way more complicated. You can absolutely have a student who feels fantastic about their progress, who loves the tutor, but is actually falling behind. So, what's the big lesson here for anyone building AI for education? Well, a few things. First, paying attention to emotions is absolutely critical for keeping students in the game. But, and this is a huge but, we can't just assume that a happy student is a learning student. They're not the same thing. A truly great AI tutor can't just be a digital cheerleader. It needs to be sophisticated enough to understand that sometimes real learning is hard and frustrating, and that's okay. And I think that's the real punchline. Building the next generation of AI tutors isn't just a coding problem, it's a human problem. It's less about writing a smarter algorithm and more about deeply understanding the messy, complicated, and powerful relationship between our feelings and our thoughts. Which leaves us with this final, really tricky question. As these AI tutors get more powerful, what do we actually want them to do? What's the main goal? Should they be optimizing for our test scores or for our feelings? Because what this research powerfully suggests is that sometimes you might have to choose.